Every single day, this kind-hearted waitress made sure the homeless man near her restaurant wouldn't go hungry. As he discovered just how incredibly compassionate she was, he started spending more time around the area. They soon became such frequent companions that a strong, profound connection formed between them. Before and after her shifts, she made it a point to seek him out, and the sight of her brought a smile to his face every time. But after a while, she realized that she had no idea who she was really talking to. She really thought she knew the man she visited with every day, but now she wasn't so sure. She actually had no idea about his true identity. Sarah, a 20-year-old who had been employed at the nearby restaurant for a few years, relied on the income to support her studies. And for a while, there was a disheveled individual who sat on the sidewalk outside every single day. He wasn't sitting there to beg for money. Instead, he said that he simply enjoyed being there. Sarah found it difficult to see him in this state. So after finishing her shift as a waitress at the restaurant where she worked, she started bringing him the leftover food from her shift. Sarah had been working as a waitress at the same restaurant for a few years when she first encountered him. She adored her job, cherished her coworkers, and held a special place in her heart for the beloved regulars who brightened her days. The sense of belonging and camaraderie she felt at work made it more than just a place to serve meals. During her break outside the restaurant, she spotted a man seated on the pavement, leaning against the building. He appeared thin with messy hair and untidy clothes. Sarah recognized him as one of the homeless individuals who wandered the streets nearby. Watching him, she felt a wave of sadness, wondering when he had last eaten a meal. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and click the notification bell for more amazing stories. It made her think about all of the food that was thrown away at the restaurant every day. Then she had a sudden realization. Following day, Sarah grabbed a container full of leftover food and handed it to the man. His eyes widened in surprise as he realized what she was offering. With a smile, she assured him that she would bring him food every day. Although he couldn't understand the reasons for her kindness, he gratefully nodded in response. Every day, Sarah made sure to bring the man a container of leftover food. Sometimes it was a full meal. Other times it was just a sandwich or a slice of pizza. But each time, the man's face lit up with gratitude as he accepted the food. As time went on, Sarah began to look forward to her daily interactions with the man. They would chat for a few minutes every day as she handed him the food, and she learned a little bit about his life. He was a fascinating man with a rich history. His name was Tom, and he did tell her some things about himself, but never much. Despite his rough exterior, Sarah saw a kind soul in Tom. She began to look forward to their conversations and would often stay and talk with him for a few extra minutes before returning to work. There were times that she even forgot about the time completely and clocked in too late after a dinner break. Over time, Sarah and Tom's relationship grew stronger. Not such a big surprise when you see each other every day. They became friends, and Sarah began to see him as more than just a homeless man on the street. They could talk about almost anything. Sarah often told him about her hopes and dreams, and Tom provided her with some advice. Through it all, Sarah never stopped bringing him food. It was a small gesture, but it made a big difference in Tom's life. Yet, he never told much about himself. Sarah had never ventured too far from her hometown before. But one day, she had an errand to run in the next town over. As she was walking down the street, when she suddenly spotted Tom, the homeless man she had been giving her restaurant's leftovers to every day. He was walking towards her in a sleek suit and stylish sunglasses. She rubbed her eyes and took a second glance to make sure she wasn't seeing things. This man could hardly pay for a Subway roll, and now it looked like he had more than enough money. But it was really him. Sarah's mind raced with questions. Had Tom somehow gotten his life back together? Was he no longer homeless? Or had he been pretending all along? As Tom walked by, Sarah hesitated for a moment before deciding to follow him. But she felt like she had to know what was going on. As she trailed behind him, she felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension. She didn't want to invade Tom's privacy, but her curiosity had gotten the best of her. So following him was what had to happen. Tom walked confidently and purposefully, as if he had a clear destination in mind. His steps were fast, almost too fast for Sarah to keep up with. But Sarah followed him through busy streets and empty alleys, careful to keep her distance so as not to draw attention. As she walked, she tried to piece together what was going on. Had Tom found a job? A place to live? Was he on his way to a job interview or an important meeting? As they walked, Sarah noticed that Tom was looking over his shoulder every now and then, as if he was being followed. Sarah tried to stay even further back, not wanting to spook him. And luckily, she stayed out of his line of sight. But as they turned a corner, she saw him crossing the road and walking towards a high building on a busy street. Slowly walking at a distance, she noticed that Tom was standing still and looking around near that building. A group of people had gathered around a storefront, and Sarah could see that Tom was heading towards them in a haste. As she got closer, she saw that the storefront was a high-end warehouse, a place where you could buy designer clothing and even furniture from the best tailors and woodworkers in the world. Tom walked up to the group of people, took out a notebook from his breast pocket, and started writing things down. As she stared at them, she noticed Tom talking to these people pretty seriously. At that moment, Sarah didn't want to know anymore and decided to turn around and go back. It was completely dazzling to her that Tom wasn't who he seemed. What was he playing at, and why had he lied to her all this time? While she walked back to her car, she had all these questions racing through her mind. But it wouldn't take long before answers were given, because the next day something strange happened. As Sarah was on her way to the restaurant one day, she saw Tom again in his usual spot. Not unlike all the other times she met him, he was shabby and bearded again, like before. She wasn't ready to confront him about it yet. She greeted him friendly. "See you tonight, Tom?" She cried cheerfully as she walked into the restaurant, ready to begin her shift. But that wasn't the end of it. Because when the clock struck 10:00, Sarah's shift was finally over. Exhausted, she took off her apron and threw it on the counter. It was time to collect scraps for Tom's meal. She walked into the kitchen and got ready to collect Tom's leftovers before she left the house. "See you tomorrow," she called as she stepped out the door. To her surprise, however, Tom was not waiting for her in his usual place. This time, he stood against the wall a little further down the street and beckoned her towards him. Sarah hesitated for just a moment. Tom was normally very happy to see her and gratefully took the food from her. They usually chatted for a moment about the company, her boss, and her education before she left. This time, it was different, and she had a feeling it had something to do with everything she witnessed the day before. Confused, Sarah walked towards Tom while the streetlights slowly brought him into focus. Something in her body told Sarah something was going on this time. The man seemed a little nervous, and the friendly smile on his face was gone. Tom looked mysterious and maybe even a little bit dangerous. Should she really go out to meet him? What was he up to? "Come here, quick," Tom whispered, trying his best to stay out of the light of the restaurant. "I have something to tell you." Hesitantly, Sarah walked towards the alley. All her senses told her to turn around and run, but somehow she still kept walking towards him. Her heart was pounding down her throat. Did she do the right thing? Was it safe to go his way? And how well did she know Tom really? She knew he was homeless and had felt sorry for him in the past. But now he was behaving very strangely. Still, Sarah decided to take the chance. Tom had always seemed very nice, and had never hurt a fly. It was hard for her to judge him by a gut feeling. Step by step, she walked towards him, while Tom kept calling her over. "Quick, before anyone sees you," he said to her. Once Sarah was out of sight of the restaurant, she looked Tom in the eye. He looked very different from before and had a bright, fiery look in his eyes. "You have to do something for me," he whispered. Sarah stared at him with a disgruntled look on her face. All this mystery, and now he was the one demanding things from her? "Excuse me, I don't have to do anything," Sarah spoke confidently. "First, you're going to tell me who the hell you are and why I saw you walking around in a suit yesterday." "I do not trust you." Tom seemed shocked after all this. He clearly had not expected this to happen. Tom took a deep breath and began to explain his situation to Sarah in great detail. "I'm not really homeless, Sarah. In fact, I'm an FBI agent who has been working undercover to investigate a massive fraud scheme that has been going on in this area for years. I know I led you on and made you believe I was homeless, and I am truly sorry." Sarah was shocked and didn't know how to respond. She had no idea that Tom was FBI agent and couldn't believe that she had been so wrong about him. "I had no idea, Tom." "I'm so sorry," she said, feeling embarrassed and ashamed for not seeing the truth sooner. "Don't be sorry, Sarah. You have been incredibly kind to me, and I am grateful for everything you have done for me. But now, I need your help. The fraud scheme that I am investigating involves your boss at the restaurant, and I believe you may be able to provide me with valuable information that can help us bring him to justice," Tom explained. Sarah listened intently as Tom explained the details of the fraud scheme and the role that her boss had been playing in it. She was shocked and disgusted by what she heard and knew she had to help Tom in any way she could. "I'll do whatever it takes to help you, Tom. Just tell me what you need me to do," Sarah said with determination. Tom smiled and thanked her for her willingness to help with the case. "We'll need to work together closely on this, Sarah. But I know that with your help, we can bring these criminals to quick justice and put an end to their illegal activities for good." Sarah nodded, feeling a newfound sense of purpose and determination in her life. She knew that this was an opportunity to make a real difference and help bring justice to those who had been victimized by the fraud scheme. Tom and Sarah exchanged contact information and made plans to meet up again soon to discuss their next steps in uncovering the truth. They had to stop this, and they were both willing to work hard to achieve this. Tom and Sarah worked tirelessly over the next few weeks. They met up many times, gathering information and evidence to build a case against the owners of the restaurant. They combed through financial records, interviewed employees, and conducted surveillance operations to get the evidence they needed to bring the fraudsters to justice. But would all of this be enough to catch them? Sarah was a crucial asset to the investigation, providing insider information about the workings of the restaurant and the suspicious behavior of the owners. She worked tirelessly, often staying late after her shifts were done, to help Tom with the investigation. With Sarah's help, Tom was finally able to build a solid case against the owners of the restaurant. And that paid off. They presented their findings to the FBI, and a large-scale investigation was launched. Without the information that Sarah and Tom found, it would have taken the Bureau ages to arrest the criminals, but with their help, they could be taken into custody the very next day. A squad team was assembled, and they made their way to the hideout of the restaurant owners. This leading to the arrest of the owners and several of their accomplices. The news of the fraud scheme made headlines, and Tom was praised for his work in uncovering the illegal activities. But Tom was quick to credit Sarah for her invaluable contributions to the investigation. In fact, the FBI was so impressed with Sarah's work that they offered her a spot in their academy. A spot with a full scholarship to cover her tuition and expenses. Sarah was overjoyed, and she knew that this was an opportunity she couldn't pass up. Tom congratulated Sarah on her achievement and promised to continue to be a mentor and guide for her as she pursued her new career in law enforcement. Sarah was grateful to Tom for everything he had done for her, both in the investigation and in helping her to secure a bright future. In the months that followed, Sarah thrived in the FBI Academy, using the skills she had learned from Tom and her experiences working in the restaurant to excel in her classes and training exercises. She graduated at the top of her class and went on to have a long and successful career in the FBI. Years later, as Sarah looked back on her life and her accomplishments, she knew that none of it would have been possible without the guidance of Tom and mentorship he offered. She felt grateful for the opportunity to work with him and to be a part of something meaningful and important, and she knew that her life would never be the same again. Binding bonds through beautiful tales. Thank you for watching.